going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. This is the state of wrestling, and that is Jake fucking DeMarco. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, my friend Spaz? Holy cow, what a big week for wrestling and a huge week for NXT.
Indeed.
I could not be more excited with everything that's happening before Battleground. And, I'm very excited to see what happens going forward now that we have this presumed forbidden door opened on the NXT side. So
I was going to say, a lot of people are saying, yeah, NXT's kind of over there, but I'm actually going to watch the show this time. And I'm like, that's cool. And one of them was, most people know Deluxe Man. I've been following him on Facebook because he's pretty good at posting really quick news stuff. And he said point blank, "Is this is the first one I'm going to be doing live stream, live react, whatever you want to call it." And I'm like, they took a couple of really fireworks type moments this week, but it's bearing fruit, and it's a little different than Undertaker coming in and chokeslamming your champion randomly because Tuesday. So
Exactly.
we are going to talk about the two big stories coming out of NXT. We were going to talk about AEW Fumble for Nothing, but we don't have time for that, and we are going to talk about a little bit of King and Queen of the Ring and a little bit of the fallout from that being 5 or 6 days out. And then our buddy Jake's got a hard out in about an hour, so it's 7:30. You got to be out at 8:30, so let's make this happen. Let's
make it count. I mean, we got NXT Battleground coming up June 9th from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. How could we not be excited?
I'm still concerned with the very, very limited capacity for fans in that building, because apparently it's only 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So it's gonna seem in a lot of ways like a really big episode of NXT.
Absolutely. It doesn't have the arena feel that they've had from all of these other events going, throughout history.
But it's a big come down from 1,600 or was it 1,600 or 16,000?
16,000 for
16,000
NXT,
for Stand and Deliver. Oi, oi, oi. I watch a little bit of What Culture. It's fine.
Yeah. The attendance for that was massive, and I mean, it said that there were 16,545 fans for Stand and Deliver.
Yeah.
So
they benefited from the no screen flex that they were doing for Raw and for SmackDown around WrestleMania weekend as well. So it was all wall to wall fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Apex was basically supposed to be done via COVID time. I mean, that was going to be there behind closed doors. Special arenas so they could film everything from there and begin to advertise.
Somebody said it was kind of like their performance center.
Essentially, yeah, that's what it is. So it's.
But I've only seen pictures of it set up for a UFC event, obviously, so we don't know. It is cool in the sense of they're putting it in something a little bit different. It's like in Vegas with all the Vegas talk when they opened up the Sphere and everybody was like, "Oh my God, wrestling's gonna look so cool in here." I'm like, but it's not a building.
Yeah, because at the Apex is the Performance Institute, so they have both sides of things there.
Right.
And you figured they've had UFC Vegas 92 different fight nights so far.
Okay.
Starting in May of 2020 till now, they've had 92 different UFC Vegas nights. All have gone out without a hitch.
Nice.
And even though they have about 1,000 people, they usually can add in a little bit more room depending on the outside area. So you're looking at 1,500 probably max. Still not a lot. But for what you're there for and what we're going to get, really, I'm okay with there being limited fan access because we're really opening the door of, hey, UFC is working with WWE.
I was going to say, it is, as much as I hate the buzzwords, it is a corporate synergy move. Oh my God, WWE and UFC are under the same banner. Look, they're even in the same building. So
and years they couldn't even admit that either existed.
No, I get it from that. I get it from that point of view.
I
get it. Yeah, I get it from that point of view. But there is a part of it where it's they're doing it just to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
And
no doubt about it.
The other half of that is they're laying down the groundwork for next year's WrestleMania as well, which is nice.
Absolutely.
So,
and
I mean,
I'm excited for it. They're gonna coincide different things with Vegas. Hey, that's great. And for them,
I mean, it's definitely going to be the biggest pay-per-view that Vegas has had this month.
Absolutely. Certainly.
I'm an asshole. It's fine. And WrestleMania next year. people saying they want to see things in the sphere's weird. It looks like a snow globe.
I think they could do something interesting there, not for Mania, but maybe as a one-off. But you would have to be there to experience it. I don't think it's something that would come
I think
across
they could
really
definitely
on
do
TV.
those like the panels that they do for like WWE World and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
buy a ticket for that. I don't think you're doing a wrestling event. It's like what was it before COVID where SmackDown did that thing where like there was an episode of SmackDown, but also there was like that massive like rap concert going on and they had some wrestling matches on the stage.
Yeah, it was like whatever world.
Yeah, it was like Sasha Banks and somebody, and then like Chad Gable had a match, and it was one of those things where like obviously it's not my kind of music. It's fine, everybody has their own thing, but it was like I really applaud them for trying.
Yeah, they did try something.
But I
to
don't
have-
think they hit the mark. Doesn't mean they shouldn't have tried. Is where
No, but it
where I'm
wasn't
trying
the
to
right
get to.
market, really. It wasn't the right. I mean, you got to get pretty much artists that are care about or involved in wrestling, you know. And
My
that-
thing,
that-
but my thing is like
Sexy
really,
Red.
my thing is really visual these days, right? Like a whole, like I was watching a movie last night instead of watching Dynamite, but that's not a dig. That's just how my day went, and it was what the hell was it called? Leave the World Behind. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's a weird movie. It's worth a look if you like weird stuff like I like. But like because I've been in so many conversations about camera work in wrestling, about Kevin Dunn did all these camera shots, and it's like okay, fine, calm down. But like I was watching the movie and because everything was shot in like a downward way, like people talking in the kitchen, but it was like talking like it was looking down at them talking rather than being in the scene. And
Gotcha.
when they tried to do that thing at the rap concert, because when you're at a concert, especially like at ground level like they were, you're looking up to the stage to the singer, whereas wrestling's the opposite. You're kind of looking down the bowl towards the wrestling ring. So
Yeah.
it's not it's very inverted from that. So with that being said, and with everything's cool in a new building, the Apex thing, I hope it comes off as an intimate show rather than a small show. And there's a huge difference.
I think that's what's going to happen too, because they have quite the bit of ideas for there, and they've gone ahead and enabled them to do some pretty cool things. So production-wise,
Yeah.
I mean, they've had all the Power Slap tournaments there. They've had.
Oh my god. I can't believe that's a thing. Side note, I can't believe that's a thing.
I admittedly watched the first season on Spike just because I was so intrigued by it, because I mean, you're worried about concussions and all these things and all these health issues with fighters and wrestlers, and then you have two people go out there and just openly slap each other till one of the two gets knocked out unconscious. It was hilarious, I mean,
it is hilarious, but like on the one side, you want to do like the concern trolling where it's like, man, somebody's gonna die, like this shouldn't happen. And on the other more comedic side, you're like, how did this become a thing?
Yeah, how is this enabled? And it's basically like, oh, people that want to fight but aren't athletes, what we'll do, we'll have them slap each other.
There you go.
And that's what it comes down to, because you can see these guys in training and all that, and it's like they're not doing these gigantic workouts or all these cardio things. It's just
they're
them.
just big.
Yeah, they're just slapping, and a lot of them, it was the skinny, cracked out looking guys that were doing well because they could take some hits and some damage.
Yeah. Anyways, I think the show's going to be great.
I'm excited.
Next weekend. This is the thing. This is a big thing for you and me. You join. I've gone on this before ever since you've been back.
Yeah.
You joined this channel initially to be my NXT guy.
Yes.
Either the preview or the review. We're gonna try and get you on for at least one, and it's gonna be you and me doing an NXT centric pod around next weekend at some point, and it's going to be flashback to the pre-COVID days.
Yes, exactly. I'm excited. You and I get to go ahead and talk about Battleground here in its own way.
I'm really happy that they have. I mean, there's a lot of outside involvement in this. Let's just be real for a second. The one we're going to talk about the two big things in a second that happened this week. The one I'm really excited about is the fact that they got Shayna Baszler back in NXT for a bit, and she's doing the Fight Pit with Lola Vice.
Yes.
And I just think that's going to look so awesome. The Fight Pit is not the Fight Pit, the NXT Underground, which is a difference. And
it's basically a fight pit. I mean,
well, no, the Fight Pit was the cage that Matt Riddle fought in. The NXT Underground is the no ropes, almost blood sport.
It looks blood sport-esque, but they both have that UFC feel. So it's like
yes, and for Shayna, and I finally got around to seeing Shayna Baszler and Masha Slamovich at Bloodsport.
Oh, did you at Bloodsport? Yeah, that was great. I watched
that was
that
a
weekend.
lot of fun. I didn't watch
killed
the
each
rest of the
other
show
there.
like I was planning to. I was planning on like overindulging my wrestling senses over WrestleMania weekend, but I didn't get around to that, and then I did, and it was really good. And I really like Masha Slamovich as well, so 2 points there.
Well,
Uh,
there's a thing about the way Bloodsport works too, in that you're adding this sense of more realism to it. I'm not sure really how to vocalize that, but they're trying to make it as realistic as possible. Like wrestling is usually scripted, and this is supposed to be
They want to go
violent.
back to a combination of wrestling when people thought it was real and the
Yes.
brawl for all.
Yes, so they're getting both there, and
Yeah.
it's this different.
Have you seen the NXT Underground matches?
Yes,
Okay.
and I like the way those are done. And
With the crowd around with the wrestlers themselves around the ring.
yeah, around the outside,
because it has that like
brawl feel. Yeah.
no, it has that Fight Club feel.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. But you got everybody standing around cheering, and
Yeah, where there's no walls because the people are the walls, but it's not. When they first started doing them, I thought for sure, oh, this is gonna have like remnants of like a lumberjack match, and that can go a bit cheesy, but it doesn't. It's kind of what a lumberjack match should be.
Yes.
Where people are throwing other people back into the ring because they want the fight to continue, not because they're on somebody's side or not.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where NXT is super goofy, but the NXT Underground concept, which they stole from Raw and Shane McMahon, which was also goofy.
Yeah.
It had every opportunity to come off as lame as hell, and the first one was Eddie Thorpe and Dijak, I think.
I think it was Dijak, yeah.
And they
I was
fucking
trying to think
killed. No, it was what's this called? Damon Kemp and Dijak. But either way, like even the guys that are like really really NXT-ish characters, like it kind of goes away for one match, and it's just let's beat the shit out of each other. And Lola Vice is great. Shayna Baszler is sort of feeling like NXT Shayna Baszler again, which is really cool. And it was one of those things that I thought was doomed to like stay as we'll do this on an episode of NXT, but that's about it. Similar to the Iron Survivor match.
Yes.
Like I didn't think they would attach that to proper pay-per-views, and they did, and it's fucking awesome. Penalty box, a match with a penalty box that actually makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, and it fit and it worked, and it was a crazy concept.
Yeah.
And I really like what we got here at, previous times in April, you go back with the fight. I always want to call it the fight pit, the underground. We had Natalya and Lola Vice going on there.
Yeah. Which was the precursor to this.
To this, yeah. So that's leading up to this match. And obviously, it was like, oh, Natalya got screwed essentially by Shayna getting involved when she shouldn't have. And it further tells the story of their breakup and how they're going to,
It's kind of funny that Natalya and Carmen Petrovic are there, and they got an issue with Lola Vice, so that Lola Vice could get a partner, so that Lola Vice could have a problem with that partner. But
yes.
I love the fact that she's like totally like dance party, shake your ass a little bit when you're down to the ring, and then kills you, and then shakes her ass as she's leaving. Like the two sides of that is awesome, but like counteract that with Shayna Baszler, who's gonna walk down wanting to kill you.
Yeah,
kill you, and then walk away glad that she killed you.
Exactly. Lola Vice is winning, and she's shaking her ass, and like you said,
apparently
having a bit of that
like,
dance side to her.
Other people were like throwing around like she's got like proper MMA background, and she's kicking people's heads off. Like I've seen little clips here and there. I'm not a UFC guy. Like as much as the UFC Apex thing is an interesting concept, or an interesting like, hey, I can't believe they're going there. It's the larger, and we're not going to have this conversation tonight because I don't think we have time, but there is the larger conversation of, hey, WWE and UFC are under the same umbrella, but how many people realistically that were diehard UFC guys are going to all of a sudden think all that time that they thought thinking WWE was shit, now I'm going to give it a shot, or people in my position where it's like the other way around, it's like, oh, it's real, tell me else is bad about it. Like, I don't think there's as much crossover as I know they want to do their package weekends, but I don't think people that haven't yet decided to give UFC a chance are gonna magically change their mind just because it's under the same umbrella.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
But I think there might be a few UFC fans that certainly come across seeing this and being like, hey, this is something I always watch them in the Apex and I've watched all the UFC Vegas ones, so let's see what happens going forward.
And I mean, if it does, good for them. But I hope they don't have their crossover sights set too high. Is where I was going. Anyways, Speaking of crossover, look at that transition.
Beautiful.
Can we talk about it? Go into NXT.
Whew.
What's one of the things advertised? Oh, Roxanne Perez is going to be live. No, it's not just going to be like AEW. Oh, so-and-so speaks. No, Roxanne Perez finds out who her opponent is for Battleground. The hint was dropped by Ava that, hey, I talked to Adam, and I talked to Aldis, and I know who your opponent is for next week. So everybody was thinking, okay, cool, somebody from the main roster. There's a lot of main roster involvement in Battleground. The OC have a tag title match. It's fine. So, okay, we're going to get the return of Charlotte, or, somebody like a Katana Chance is going to come back down for a night. And we get fucking Jordynne Grace.
I was pleasantly shocked and very surprised. Not at all who I was expecting. I mean, we already, and we'll briefly mention it, like I said before, Sexy Red, may have found her home in wrestling. She fit in very well.
She's going to manage fucking Trick Williams is what she's going to do. She's going to bounce her. She's going to keep whoever is selling Booker T his heart medication in business.
Exactly. Shucky ducky quack quack. That her coming out to get it sexy, and her being the host of Battleground. It's fun. I like when. And
she was there to reveal the. I kind of felt bad for her and Ava, because Ava is really getting some. Ava right now from the NXT fans is getting a lot of support because a lot of other people were dicking on her because she only has a job because she's The Rock's daughter, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. But and they didn't really give her a chance at that point.
No. And I mean, I think they figured out that her skill isn't necessarily between the ropes, but more as a character, which is absolutely fine.
I mean, look at who her dad is. He obviously always had the best mic skills and mic work.
But I mean, in a much more dire situation, like somebody that I talk up quite a bit is Corey Graves. Corey Graves couldn't wrestle anymore for medical reasons. He became a commentator, and look at how he's the head guy on SmackDown now.
Exactly.
Like, sometimes it's just that little turn, right? But I felt bad for her this week because she came out with Sexy Red, who I don't know anything about. It's not my thing. I'm pretty sure this will not surprise anybody.
Yeah.
But whatever. She's a celebrity. She's going to host the show. Fantastic. 2 thumbs up from me. I hope the people that are her fans get something out of that. I popped when Lizzie Hale came out and sang Ember Moon to the ring. I hope this is their version of that. Right?
I kind of feel like it is, honestly. It has that feel to it, certainly.
But they came out, and I felt really bad for them, though, because they came out to do this big reveal of the Women's North American Championship. But there wasn't really a huge, gigantic pop because we had already seen it in the graphic when they first announced that it was happening. And it is just a female mock-up of the men's, which is fine. I get why they do that. It's like a whole, equality thing. But, it wasn't the wow of the new world titles on Raw that I personally really like.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't quite that, but Jordynne Grace.
But it was still done fun. I like the reveal. I like they're having a mid-card women's title because they have enough feuds right now where it's actually.
And Tatum Paxley having the tug of war with Sexy Red over the belt, and it's like, okay, she's red and she's holding the belt that's also red. We get.
Yeah, that was kind of it for that. But
I really like Tatum Paxley though, so.
Yeah, and I feel like they're going to do more with it going forward. So it wasn't really upsetting to me. I don't feel like they're going to forget about this belt like they did.
It wasn't a negative. I just. If they were gonna do a big reveal thing, I wish they hadn't. I wish they had just announced that there's going to be a women's mid-card title and not necessarily shown the graphic at stand. I know why they did. Graphics get attention.
Yeah,
but
and that got some news time and air time.
Of course, and that picture got shared around everywhere. Everybody got really excited.
Did its job. Yeah.
Immediate speculation that if this works out really well, eventually we get a women's Intercontinental Championship, which I would also be all for. Maybe share it between Raw and SmackDown before you try to have 3.
It gets risky, and that's the problem. They have the women's tag titles that aren't always being, discussed and utilized, and you have a decent team.
But the thing is though,
Bianca,
But the thing is, though, with the tag titles, it's never been a thing, but WWE sort of sails under that radar of WWE has never really taken tag team wrestling seriously. There are a bunch of individual women's wrestlers on Raw and SmackDown that we know aren't going to scrape up to that top tier just yet. Like, a Candice LeRae should not have a title, for example. for an example.
No, and I get that, and that's kind of the thing, though, that I don't want the oversaturation to happen to the point where, here's the thing: Sasha Banks is supposed to be the main title holder right now. Essentially, she's supposed to be this big deal, but it doesn't feel that way entirely because Toni Storm is actually the women's champion, so she's just holding the mid card title, and
because Sasha Banks is Sasha Banks.
Yeah, so it gets with Mercedes,
and her finisher sucks ass.
I'm not into that Monet statement for anything, for sure, but
the Monet maker.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, I'm a guy that likes a good pun, but that's not a good pun.
No, it's not. None of it's been great, sadly, and that's the thing. And it doesn't feel like it's on this big scale as it should be because of how they've handled things and because of how it's basically everything's made to felt the same and on the same level. So,
and see, I think there's a big part of that where it's like, okay, they've saturated their mid card. WWE in the past little while has shown what they can do with a mid card title. The IC title with Gunther, the US title in a very different way with Logan Paul, and now with this for a women's mid card title. I think WWE as a whole is going to be super motivated to show that they can make a women's mid card title work.
I certainly believe they could, and I just don't want it to get to the point where, oh God, they have so many titles that nothing feels like it matters. Nothing feels original, or everything feels like a copy of a copy. So hopefully they can do it, keep it feeling original, and make it entertaining. Yeah. And we'll see what happens.
And I want to make a hard hook back to we're sort of burying the lead a little bit. Current reigning, defending TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace walking into the Performance Center first of all to challenge Roxanne Perez for the NXT championship at an NXT pay-per-view. Or sorry, premium live event. I do the wiggly fingers. I do the Simon Miller wiggly fingers.
You got to have the wiggles. And here's the thing. I was completely surprised. I did not expect Jordynne Grace to be the one to accept this challenge.
I think I blew up your messenger box when it happened.
Totally when it happened.
I'm like, I know you have 100 things going on in your life right now, but you need to turn on your fucking TV.
You got to see this, Cue the dashboard TV. Pop it out of the, out of the steering wheel. But when she found out about her appearance, basically just all but a couple weeks back, and they were only going to have one date, and that was going to be Battleground. And then Shawn Michaels and others said, hey, we want to reintroduce you to the WWE audience, so we're going to add 2 more dates. So she has one more appearance next week, and then actually at Battleground. Yep. I think that's great. Give her TV time to show who she is. You made the big impact of her debuting. Pun intended. Yep. Then you go ahead and you have her, next week show who she is, and then you have her at the pay-per-view. That's how it's done. You bring her in as a big deal, you showcase her, and I could actually, will it happen? I don't know, but I could see Jordynne Grace winning. I really could. Because
I could see her winning, and then Roxanne going to Against All Odds, which is not even a week later; it's 5 days later.
Yeah.
Or I could see, Roxanne gets a win, retains her title, they have a rematch on the TNA pay-per-view, and Jordynne Grace defends her title successfully, they each have a win, and all that kind of thing. There's all kinds of talk that they are intentionally taking baby steps with it, but this is going to be a more fluid talent relationship.
Yeah, and obviously TNA knows this will help viewership, this will help... interest. This will help ticket sales. I really don't see a downside to this. Now,
and let's not forget either. It's going to help NXT as well.
Yes,
because TNA's been around longer, and they don't have a huge following, but the following that TNA has, and I've heard a million people say this a million different ways. Right? They might have 5 fans in the building. But those 5 fans will eat your face.
Yes, they are the most dedicated fans.
And you get a couple of fans like that into the NXT product, or at least giving it a glance and saying, hey, even if we don't like NXT, our person is there, we're going to go and do that. There has to be, I'm sorry, and I'm saying no main roster, throw Raw and SmackDown out the window for a second. There has to be a Worlds Collide event with TNA and NXT.
Oh my God, I would love that. And
the possibilities are endless.
Exactly. And
if you did champion versus champion, right now that would be Trick Williams versus Moose.
Exactly, and that fits great. I don't want to see an invasion, and that's what some people
No,
were worried about, and
no.
they were like, "Oh, I don't." That was one of the things Cornette commented about because it was basically designed to him you know put forth in such a way that, oh, would you want to see TNA come and have an invasion with WWE? No, of course not. We don't want another invasion storyline to happen. We don't.
Hmm.
It wouldn't work well because then somebody always has to lose, as you know, and both companies are going to want stuff, and even
Hmm.
when you own both companies, we see how it can turn out. Never mind, so we'll see what comes of it. But I just like the idea of sharing talent, having them each benefit each other in those ways. I like them going back and forth. Like you said, it shares interest because you got
Hmm.
back-to-back shows. You can have
Oh,
people
you can
on
have
both sides of
somebody like
things.
just visiting from the other brand. I would like them to do like a co-hosted
Oh, I would
show.
too. I would like to have, like you said, Worlds Collide, where it's strictly, side versus side, but not in an invasion side of things,
But
but just where it's side
here's what I
versus side.
pitch. Here's what I pitch on the like because there's a million good matches I could throw out there. Really, what I want to see, and he would have to come back to NXT for a night. But really, what I want to see when I was speculating with people online or whatever, I really want to see Josh Alexander versus Finn Balor.
Ooh,
I really want to see that. But like do much the way Forbidden Door is. It's not always like this brand versus this brand. Maybe there's a tag match where there's people from both brands on each side, and it's just a mix and match. Like
yeah, and it's
fun
just
thing,
here and there, little by
like
little.
literally like as much as I bash Tony for doing this all the time, occasionally let's just play with our action figures show for one night is not a horrible thing.
No, no, it's not.
But
And that's why.
here's my fun thing though, because
Okay.
you've seen Ariana Grace
Yes.
on NXT, correct?
Yes.
She's great. She's got the pageant gimmick and all that sort of thing. I want her to get into an argument with Ava, and Ava says, "Look, I'm the boss. I'm the authority figure here." And she says, "Well, I have somebody who's the director of authority from TNA,
Ooh,
which
yeah,
is
and have it.
which is her dad, Santino Marella."
Yeah.
And Ava kind of says, "Well, I've got a slightly bigger boss than that," and brings in her dad,
Yeah.
and you get Ava and The Rock versus Ariana Grace and Santino Marella.
It could be amazing if
That
they
would be
really wanted to go with it.
can you imagine? Can you imagine The Rock showing up in TNA and rock bottoming Santino Marella?
Before I would have said that's impossible.
Nothing's
Now
impossible.
nothing is impossible
Nothing
anymore.
is impossible.
And I would say like, oh, that would be crazy. They wouldn't do it, but certainly,
On the back burner though,
yeah,
off the back of this year's Royal Rumble,
yes.
eventually we got to get to Jordan Grace versus Rhea Ripley.
That I think is the match that everybody wants to see, and I really think that would be the moneymaker. And especially with her, pop tartar memes and getting so famous for that for a while, that that was one of the first things Shawn Michaels actually asked her about.
Yeah.
He asked Jordan, like, "Did you really eat that? Is that really?" And she's like, "No, I just threw it up on the internet. I wanted everybody to think I ate it." But she took, tons of raw steak meat between two Pop-Tarts and called it Pop Tartar.
Yeah, I saw that. Oh, no,
But now
false.
she's admitting, hey, I didn't actually eat it, but I wanted people to think I did forever. And I was like, oh, that's hilarious, though.
Yeah.
And to have that kind of like fun side to you, where that you can have these things play off, and I like that. I like the silliness of it. I like the develops more of the character. But her and Rhea would be the place to go. Like
The one other pitch, and I hate to be this guy, but he's not exactly like somebody that I get really excited about, but he is a good wrestler. Her husband is Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Because we have William Regal's son, Charlie Dempsey, in NXT right now. Charlie Dempsey versus Jonathan Gresham.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
In like
There's
an
so
old
many
school
matches
grappling.
yeah.
Jonathan Gresham going for the Heritage Cup.
Oh.
There we go.
And
Fuck it.
see,
Fuck,
I'm
no,
not a
no. Fuck
fan
it. I
of
take that back.
Jonathan,
I'm pulling the Destiny card here. Yes, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. Josh Alexander going for the Heritage Cup.
Yeah, that would work great too. Either way.
Anyways, so Jordan Grace versus Roxanne Perez at Battleground. I feel bad because this happened, and then we immediately jumped into the entire TNA NXT thing, and it's like, or even if nothing else happens, it's still kind of kick-ass that Jordan Grace is here.
Exactly. It's amazing. Just the acknowledgement of TNA and her work, and
just them
saying,
two with their belts standing face to face is like
yeah,
a
being
thing.
like, you matter, you're a wrestling artist, you know, have done something to the point that we recognize your ability in WWE is a
I
awesome.
was just watching before we came on interview that Shawn Michaels did, and
Yeah.
he's openly said since the Royal Rumble he's been a huge fan of Jordynne Grace for a couple years, and he openly called out Triple H and just said, like, I'm really jealous that you got her for the Rumble, you owe me one, and that's how this whole conversation started. And the whole conversation about in general about the whole TNA working relationship and whatnot, and I just think it's really cool. I just think it's really cool, and
That it is. I mean, I like the idea of showing off and being willing to celebrate other people, and because competition is a good
remember
thing.
on the horizon as well what the rumor is for up here in Toronto at Heatwave. The rumor
Granted,
is that Julia
yeah.
is making her debut match at Heatwave. So,
Is she still injured? Is she injured?
I think she's doing some dates for the Marigold thing. I don't know a lot about her, and I'm intentionally not looking into her too much so that she can still be new to
Yeah.
me when I see her for the first time. I know that's not the way most people attack it, but I'm like, okay, she's good, and I've seen some clips and some like quick highlight gifs and all that kind of thing. But at
Okay,
the same
here's
time,
your update. She did have wrist surgery 2 days ago.
oh, okay. I
She
thought
was discharged from the hospital as of May 30th, so that's today.
Mm.
And she put out a picture today saying discharged from the hospital with a thumbs up, and she's got herself, you know, all there for her wrist surgery. So hopefully she heals
Nice.
soon and gets in there by that time, because that would be awesome. Wrists don't usually take too long, thankfully.
So here's the one thing, right? Like NXT TakeOver used to do the thing where the champion would retain or the new champion would be crowned, and then the brand new person would come out at the end, and there would be a big stare down. It's like, this is what you know you're getting in a month, right?
yeah.
But what's more effective, right? Roxanne Perez retains. She has a handshake or whatever with Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace gets a minute with the fans, and then we get a stare down with Julia at the end of the night. Or Julia somehow costs Roxanne the match. TNA star Jordynne Grace is now the NXT Women's Champion, and Julia versus Roxanne at Heatwave is a grudge match.
Yeah, that would be...
There's a lot to play with.
But
Let alone...
that's the thing right now. That you just nailed it, Spaz. There is a lot of what ifs and possibilities and rumors and speculation. It's fun again. Ever since the build to WrestleMania 40, it really got people back onto the bandwagon of wrestling.
Even the stuff that you like fantasy book, like I just did the whole like Rock Santino thing, like
Yeah,
off the top
the
of my head,
crazy
right?
stuff.
The crazy like, yeah, right, like that's gonna happen. And like, oh, they'll never do that, and then ... But they might.
Exactly. And you can say never now, and the Rock's too big of a star, but then you see things happen, so anything is possible.
But if they're making deals with TNA, the higher ups in WWE are going to be involved in those deals, and if you're there for the deal, you might as well come out for the huge pop.
That would be, think about even, we've talked about a little bit on the women's side of things and the men's side of things, but then just having the titles come over to be defended too at times could be really interesting if you have people going back and forth as champions. I mean, and
I'm not gonna lie, TNA star Jordynne Grace goes through all the different brands of WWE and becomes the belt collector would be hilarious.
That would be something.
Jordynne Grace clocking Liv Morgan while she's like mid makeout with Dominic or something.
Knocking her down, getting their time right.
But it's almost weirder to me that she's getting like a random TV match before she has this big match with Roxanne as well.
Yeah, I like it because they're reintroducing her to the audience. They want people to know who she is and see what she's about. So
I'll tell you the ironic thing. I'll tell you the ironic thing that I almost forgot about, right? Because I basically didn't know who Roxanne Perez was until she came to WWE.
Yeah.
I did see one match of Roxy's before she came to WWE. It was Roxy versus Deonna Purrazzo for the ROH Women's Championship on TNA Impact.
Yeah, I forgot about that match.
But like here, look at that sentence though. The ROH title, well, that's over there now. Deonna Purrazzo, over there now. But it was on TNA where Jordynne Grace is from. Jordynne Grace has now come to NXT to face Roxy for the NXT Championship.
Exactly. So it goes
Layers.
on both sides, and it's
Ogres
like,
are like onions, and they have layers. But you know what's awesome? You know what's even better than potentially a long-standing working agreement with TNA?
what's that?
Stealing another star from AEW.
That is indeed. And now that we're hearing that he's not even actually signed either.
I think that's kayfabe.
I think it might be, but I like what
It's a
they're
fun
doing
story to
with
play
it.
with. Like,
It
hey,
is.
I'm not even on the roster. I just came by to fuck with Trick, but you guys have my number.
Yeah, so I mean, we had all ego, Ethan Page. You know, he came by for a quick cup of coffee, and no,
clocked the champion.
and you decided to knock out the champ in the process. Yeah, I'm excited. I like Ethan Page a lot. I didn't care for him and the Karate Man stuff, and I knew he was trying to be creative. He was trying something new, so I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. And then you hear like, oh, Impact had a lot of issues with the production side of things, and a lot of things are supposed to be different. So
Well,
it's
he's
like, all right,
fighting
we'll give it a
himself.
chance. Yeah, exactly. So they were supposed to edit things differently. It was supposed to look better.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I get it. Let me give him another chance. And he, you know, some of his matches were good. He can talk on the mic usually, but he was never really that guy or given that chance. And we got some of the glimpses of little bits of that. I want to say a few months back, he was on Collision where he took on MJF, and the promo he cut was fantastic. He did this hometown rah-rah.
I was gonna say
type-
he hyped himself up for one. It was when they were somewhere in Canada because he's Canadian.
Yeah. Yep.
But here's the thing, right? He attacks Trick. We assume that the announcement is going to be next week that he's going to face Trick for the championship. I don't think they do it at Battleground though, because he's Canadian and because Heatwave is happening in Toronto. And by the way, I'm going if I haven't mentioned it. I think they'll save it for that. I think you leave Trick off this card. I think maybe they injure him next week or do another injury angle or play up the injuries from this week.
Yeah.
You leave him off this card, and I think Roxanne and Jordan, because of how big it is, like outside of just the two of them, I think they let that main event Battleground, which is absolutely fine.
You got a ladder match for the women's North American title, so their mid-card title.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the North American title for Triple Threat. You've got the Underground, and then you get the women's and the tag team, so you don't need the men's title on this show. You really don't. It's booked strong enough as is. So that's why I didn't think we'd see anything more, really. Maybe like you said, Trick gets taken out, but he already wasn't going to be at this pay-per-view. It was pretty much set that wasn't going to happen.
Well, it was kind of being set up that it was going to be him and Noam Dar, but that was a bait and switch.
Yeah.
Right now, as you say, you have the six-way for the new North American title. You have Obafemi Wesley, Joe Coffey for the other North American Championship. You got Baszler and Lola Vice in the NXT Underground. You got Roxanne and Jordan, and then you got Nathan Frazier and Axiom taking on the OC, which is going to be awesome. Not gonna lie.
Be badass with the OC coming to go ahead and see what happens with Frazier and Axiom. It's gonna be good.
I like Frazier and Axiom as a team, but they're also like OC is going around NXT. It's like, I can't believe you guys let so many people from the main roster down here. Get them out of here. Meanwhile, they're like main roster as fuck.
Exactly. So it's funny, Yeah. It works out well.
But also like you cannot change the look on Gallows. Like Gallows doesn't give a shit.
No.
Like he's going wherever the paycheck is, and it's written all over it.
Exactly.
And there's something kind of awesome about that.
Because he's honest about it. It's real.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm here for the money.
I would love to have like a random appearance by CM Punk just for like no particular reason whatsoever.
We've gotten it before, and
It's
NXT.
true.
It could happen again. Certainly.
Well, when they were speculating on what brand he was going to go to,
Yeah.
and also that was the other thing in the Shawn Michaels interview I was watching earlier. He's just, it's WWE talking good about WWE, but he's talking about like how CM Punk, even though he's been injured, he's been down with the NXT folks and helping them out. And lending
him and
where they can.
Roxanne have been close for a while now. He's
Jade
been a
Cargill
big
as
proponent
well.
of hers. Yeah, Jade. I mean, there's so many people, and Punk has been a big help to a lot of these talents so far. They've said that he's been very, very forthcoming, and he allows them to ask questions, and no one feels stupid. No one feels
Right
less
around
than.
WrestleMania time, it was specifically Carmelo, Trick, and Braun Breaker that were saying like, yeah, we just sit there and like pick his brain for hours. Like
Exactly, and he lets us, and he works with us, and he allows us to, grow as talent. And I'm like, that's awesome.
it's the same as what was the other thing? I think I talked about it last time I was on a pod. Might have been with you, might have been just by myself. The fact that apparently Paul Heyman is now the liaison for all new NXT call-ups to the main roster.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's like a go-between for them and the creative team, and a go-between between them and Triple H himself, which is kind of funny when you think about the fact that NXT is kind of Triple H's baby. So you would think he would like already have a good rapport with them, but throw in Heyman. Why the fuck not?
Exactly. Having him be the go-to, the liaison, the guy. So now you come in, you're like, oh my God, I get to pick the brain and talk to Paul frickin' Heyman, Mr. ECW, Mr. Spoiler, not a prediction. And it's like, oh wow, and it just gets bigger and better. So I'm excited to see,
Imagine
how
you
these
walk
people
into
progress.
I don't know how an NXT class works. It's not Chase U. But
No,
imagine
it's not.
imagine going into a panel and your two speakers that day are Paul Heyman and CM Punk.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
that's why it all
they've
starts
got
up.
some stuff at their disposal. Anyways, WWE's kind of good right now. You know what else was good? Even though
What's
it
that?
was in Saudi Arabia, King and Queen of the Ring.
It was very good, and I mean, no complaints here. Going into the show, I may have been a little less than, I don't want to say thrilled, but excited for Cody Rhodes' match with Logan Paul, and I walked out of there thrilled with what we got. So
I'm going to go out on a limb here. WWE Champion Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul was better than WWE Champion Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles.
yeah, I would say so. I would admit that.
I do love the fact that I hope he continues doing it. I love that he's using the Vertebreaker as an alternate finishing move.
I do as well, and I like, the France show had just that certain element to it. It was, oh my God, the crowd is so next level. They didn't stop ever for a second. My God, they made the Richter scale go off over there for an earthquake, and they had the camera shaking. They were cheering so loud. I mean, it was incredible to watch and witness. So that main event had a very special feel.
I will say though, like I'm careful about this because I know the whole Saudi show thing is a topic in and of itself.
Yeah.
But for a Saudi show, I think that was the best crowd they've ever had.
Certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back and early days of the Saudi shows, you just had what looked like princes in the audience. Now it's families, children.
Yeah, people in the front row on couches. That was a bit weird. I'm
Yeah,
not trying to be culturally fucked up or anything, but it was
just
it was a little
odd
jarring.
for a wrestling show, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was very unfamiliar.
I'm not gonna lie though. If I had front row tickets to a WWE show and they said, "Would you like a couch?" I would say yes.
I would not disagree there. Certainly not.
Especially put yourself in Dominic Mysterio's position right now, where his now actual wife has to watch him macking on Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan.
I know. Every internet basement dweller hates him right now. He literally has the internet's two most desired women, both fighting for his attention. How did he get
and the problematic mustache?
Yes. Can't forget the mustache.
Okay, so a little bit of a bridge topic then. Liv Morgan is the new champion. Very cool, in my opinion.
I'm very happy that she's got the belt, and it gives something to do with the title for a while, rather than just have Becky go on and defend it time and time again.
There's the rumors circulating about Becky. We can speculate at a later date.
Yeah.
But is it just me, right? Because it might have been a bigger fluke before, but this... I mean, yes, there's bullshit involved, and yes, there's chicanery afoot because she's a heel. But as far as, like, the dedication, this feels 10 times more dedicated than when they had her cash in on Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, the whole story with her is like, oh my God, I can't believe she beat Ronda Rousey. This is like, okay, there's layers and all that kind of thing, but, like, she to me on television feels like she's more into the character that she's doing, which not everybody likes, which is fine. But I think there's just more to it. I can't verbalize it any better than that. But it feels like there's a definite decision here.
Yeah.
And I'll go out on a limb, assuming that Becky Lynch is still in WWE, which at this point right now I'm assuming she is. when Rhea Ripley comes back, they've actually set up the perfect triple threat as far as the story goes. Because Becky has a reason to be mad at the Judgment Day. Becky has a reason to be mad that Liv Morgan robbed her. Liv and Rhea injured each other. Dominic was inadvertently the cause of her winning the title that actually belonged to Rhea. Like, the reasons go in every direction, and that hardly ever happens convincingly in a triple threat scenario.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, you know, one of the things that came out this week that I want to come back to, and talking about Queen of the Ring, and you had mentioned, you know, I kind of want to jump back really quick before we go too far, but you mentioned with Logan Paul, and one of the things that you said that was better than AJ, I wanted to specifically talk about one of the moments in that match.
Absolutely.
The 360 drone shot that they
had.
Oh,
my God.
Apparently, Logan had been dreaming of this shot and pitched it over a year ago. So he tweeted out a day ago the tweet that he had sent to WWE upper management saying, hey, this is an idea I have. Why don't we hire an FPV drone flyer to do this shot? And apparently they couldn't do it at the venue at Mania, but that they were working towards this. And it was incredible. You know, we've seen him hold his phone when he's gone through the table and whatnot now.
Which is a different kind of cool thing, yeah.
Yeah, that first-person view. Now you got a whole another level of a total 360 shot. And it coincides with the bigger picture. WWE currently, you know, you brought up Kevin Dunn at the very beginning of this pod, and it's fitting that towards the end we bring him back up. They have made drastic changes to the way their TV has been produced, handled, and booked.
As much as Kevin Dunn is always the focal point of that, I don't think every single production problem WWE has ever had can fall on one person's shoulders.
No, it doesn't.
Because even if it was entirely one person, you got bosses that are letting it happen. So, absolutely. Like, I do use the Kevin Dunn
boil down to him, but
yeah. I do use the Kevin Dunn example, but like in very loose terms.
Yeah, but he was a huge issue, and, you know, the zoom-in tight shots that we see, the 500 camera changes, those were his. That's what he was.
The whole, like, you have to shake the camera with every kick so that people know what a kick is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's 100% better. I like when they do the champion and challenger introductions now, how it, for a couple seconds, it's in that eight-dimensional...
Yeah, the 8K camera, and they have the super high definition frickin'.
And all it takes is they don't get their typical like lower third. They get that thing that just says challenger or champion, and then it flips over and it has their name on it.
Yeah.
Which seems like such a small thing to zoom in on, but it matters.
It all matters. It just gives it that fight feel, that bigger than life.
This is the thing with the production stuff, right? Production will not make a bad show good. But it will make a good show great.
Yes, that's very
true. When you've got the actual like bell to bell story and all that to back it up, a little something like the flipping graphic that actually says champion, the whole zoom in with the 8K to make them feel like larger than life before they go to battle, like all those little things can happen now because the other shit has been dealt with. Maybe that's the other thing, too. Like, in the time of Kevin Dunn, there was also the other problems. So there was always something bigger to deal with than the camera cuts.
Exactly.
Now we've got most of the other shit out of the way. CM Punk has come home. Papa H is, like, sitting on the real throne. And now we can worry about the little stuff. You know, like telling people to check their references.
Yeah, it was the lack of logical booking. I mean, that was a huge issue for a long time.
Yeah, if you put awesome production like this on WWE 2019 booking, it would have the opposite effect because it would be like, no, stop it, you're trying to shine a turd.
Exactly.
You can only do this now because they're only doing this now. Yes,
because you put in the time and the effort.
Yeah,
and you
put in the time to get the good matches, to bring back the good people, to tell the good stories, and now that you have a good story, you've got a really good guy with a really good camera to tell it with.
Exactly.
And you had to. I'm going to do a Chris Jericho thing, but you had to fix the roots before you could see the learning tree.
It's certainly a great line from the worst person. Like
I love Chris Jericho. I will say, and we're not going to talk about AEW. I will say it's incredibly funny that when AEW has a show, even when I try to like something, I get told by AEW fans that I'm liking the wrong thing.
Yeah.
My two takeaways from that show, I'm sorry, are the FTW match and the cage match. and both of them were flawed to hell, but they were also the most entertaining things there. I'm sorry, I'll say it for what it's worth. Jake, you don't have to sign on for this if you don't want to. Darby Allin coming out at the end of the night and setting Jack Perry on fire was the equivalent of Tony Khan being your dad on a long car trip, and he knows the kids in the back are bored, and he starts jingling his fucking keys.
Pretty much. I mean, that I had said that for a while, but they had to do something with it because they teased it on Dynamite.
Oh yeah, Chekhov's flamethrower.
So exactly, as I had said, absolutely.
Yeah, but there was 3 no disqualification matches on that card.
And
Anarchy in the Arena was the 3rd best.
And the last one. So by the time they got to there, we had seen so many other spectacles and moments.
And I'm sorry, the show was super
nonsense.
fucking long. I have nothing against Swerve and Christian. I like both of them, but just with the length of the show, I fell asleep in the middle of their match, and that has nothing to do with them. That makes me sound like a dick. But the show is too
but that's
long.
not you. That's strictly just dealing with it. Milo doesn't like it either. We went ahead and,
very nice.
That's the thing. I have a hard time as well sitting there. I had to split the pay-per-view up. Unfortunately, I was dealing with health stuff. But even if I wasn't, it's like it's so hard. It's like, oh, you have 7 hours of the day. I mean, those are the things we used to complain about with WrestleMania. We complained about with certain WWE side of things. So it was nice to see them.
WrestleMania has an excuse. I'm sorry, and this is the thing. Oh, well, you like it when WWE does it at WrestleMania. AEW does it every month or every show or whatever. With WrestleMania, you know what you've signed up for.
But even then, it wasn't a long, drawn-out, forever.
I'm not going to lie. I loved it when WrestleMania was long, because that was the thing. You weren't just tuning in for a show that night. That day was WrestleMania. It's like when people go to an all-day concert or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Because there is a part of me that misses the one day, it's WrestleMania only, and it sounds a bit contradictory, but it is the truth, because you get that like you said, that certain feel.
Yeah,
but,
and see, I get that people are saying that. I love how ridiculously huge WrestleMania weekend is now. It starts on Thursday, and it goes till, like, the following Tuesday, and everything. Like, you just don't do anything else that weekend. I mean, I'm single, I don't have kids, I'm coming from a very one person perspective on that, and I acknowledge that, but
that's the thing. It's like everybody. There are so many different facets of people with schedules and things like that. So some people like the longer, but I didn't want to do it every time, and that was.
Well, this is the thing. I said this in a super chat on somebody else's stream a while ago. Is Triple H heard the criticism that all the pay-per-views are dragging and getting too long, which was a thing. Like, they were starting to get up there when Peacock was just trying to get, like, their viewership hours up, right? But here's a counteroffer, right? Here's the counteroffer that I would give WWE if I had any position within WWE. Keep the shorter pay-per-views. Take Raw down to 2 hours. The big 4 pay-per-views, make them as long as you want.
Yeah,
that would be my offer. Or, and it's a bigger conversation for another day. SummerSlam's going 2 nights and all that kind of thing. Royal Rumble, 2-night Royal Rumble. The night that has the men's Rumble on it, the entire undercard is female matches, so that all the men are available for the Rumble, and the same is the opposite for the women on the next night.
I like that.
Make the big 4 or the big 5. I know a lot of people say Money in the Bank is one of the big 5 now, as opposed to King of the Ring. So the big 4 or the big 5, whatever you want them to be, go hog wild. Cram as much into those weekends as you can. The rest of them, keep them as they are now. Triple H is kind of running pay-per-views like he used to run takeovers, which isn't any kind of bad thing. Take Monday Night Raw back to 2 hours. Have shorter shows the rest of the year, and go hog wild on those 5 shows in the year.
Absolutely.
I think that would be an awesome trade-off.
That would be fantastic.
I know we already know about 2026, but 2025 we could do a 2-night SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium. Maybe. So, before we get out of here, we said we were going to talk about King and Queen, so we have to talk about the King and the Queen. First of all,
absolutely.
Gunther.
God damn.
I like what they've done. If it was a botch with the pin, then they've done good with it. If it was intentional, then they're telling a cool story either way. You left the door wide open for a Randy Orton rematch later on down the line.
They certainly did their own way to protect Orton without making Gunther feel less than, not making it feel like, oh, he couldn't get the job done, but he got the win anyways. No, he beat Orton, but there's that little caveat in there, and he now gets a World Heavyweight Championship match at SummerSlam.
You know what I find hysterical is that at Clash at the Castle, this is the other big piece of news that came out of King and Queen of the Ring, is that Drew McIntyre is cleared, and Damian Priest is keeping up his word, and they are having their title match at Clash at the Castle. Obviously, Scotland, you got Drew McIntyre in there. There's
coming up the week after NXT, so it's going to be...
There is a rumor that Gallus is being called up to the main roster to be backup, like henchmen for Drew McIntyre. I kind of want to see it only because so many people don't like Gallus, and I just want Twitter to be on fire.
It could work.
But outside of that, it's kind of ironic because Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre are fighting over the World Championship, but they're also fighting to see who has to face Gunther.
Yeah.
So, like, Gunther is the other prize, almost. And then you throw CM Punk into the mix. So, Priest retains at Clash at the Castle. That's my prediction. Maybe because of CM Punk. And then you get Priest Gunther, which is a match I didn't know I needed until just recently.
Yeah.
And then on the undercard, or maybe the overcard, depending on how they put it together, you finally get Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk, which feels bigger than a title match.
Yeah, I think they're saving that for SummerSlam, but...
And then on top... Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, off the back of Clash at the Castle.
Yeah, it'll lead into... Mm-hmm.
I said CM Punk should win Money in the Bank, but, I mean, I'm going to be there. So I'm a little biased.
But you know what? There's a thing. They can build somebody up. If it's not Punk, I wouldn't mind seeing Finn Balor get it. Just because of the way it plays with the... the Judgment Day and the dissension. Are you going to cash in on me? That kind of thing. I think they could have some good stories with there, and it could really help tie everything up for when Rhea returns.
It will, and here's the thing. Like, Rhea Ripley's already a babyface. We know this. Like, she's a heel in name only, and same thing with Damian Priest, really. When they break up Judgment Day, here's the thing. Priest will be fine. Rhea will be fine. Finn will be fine, or he can stay as a tag team with JD McDonough, right?
Yeah, he can go either which way.
What does Dominic Mysterio do without that group? It's like they want to break up the Alpha Academy, but what does Otis do as a solo wrestler?
I can see Dominic being okay as how dashing Cody Rhodes was as a heel. I could picture Dom in the vein of that, being a mid-card champion at this point.
I can see it. I don't doubt his ability. I just think like his personality is based on basically being a part of that group.
Yeah, being a part.
All the rest of them were already like, capital F, capital S fucking stars before that group came together. Maybe not JD McDonough, but if he's going to be a tag team partner with Finn Balor, then he's fine.
Exactly.
But I mean, there's lots of cool things to come out of that, and it's a pretty, like, sort of out of nowhere, the world title picture on Raw is kind of stacked. Because if you think about, like, Braun Strowman has gotten himself involved with Priest recently. So you got Priest, Strowman, Gunther, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk. Yeah. Any combination of those five guys, and what the fuck does CM Punk versus Braun Strowman look like?
Oh, I know. There's a ton of... We haven't really gotten to see anything from Punk yet.
You know what it might look... Okay, this is going to be my last point because I know you have to go. I'm watching the clock for you. You know what CM Punk versus Braun Strowman might look like? Might look like Nia Jax versus Lyra Valkyria. Jesus Christ.
Point. Yeah, they did the ultimate squash there, and in a literal sense, they squashed the hell out of Lyra. I like the way the conclusion
We're having
happened.
pigeon pancakes.
Yeah, my God, she is flattened for good. The way she came down on her, it was like the Mortal Kombat fatality, just chiming in the background. Finish her. Nia does that corner splash and just comes down with all the force and doesn't even hold on to the ropes, just lands flat down onto her ribs and her chest, and hot damn, like you said, steamrolled her literally. But I like Nia winning, and this keeps Nia from right now having to be in the title picture. She can be a threat to both sides going ahead. and then we can kind of see what
No,
happens.
they were specific. It's that brand.
Yeah, the WWE Women's Champion. Yeah. So, but I'm excited to see what they can do with it. You know, they'll have her be the heel going forward. It makes sense, and you know, we'll see what happens.
If it's still Bayley, which I believe it will be, I think Bayley's going to have a decent run. I think you have to lean hard into their rivalry from NXT. And I know nostalgia doesn't always work because not everybody watched NXT, but there's a lot to do there.
There is, and I was going to say they have a ton of history already between the two, so they could really call back on all of that and how both of them have grown as individuals since then and what that means for them facing off.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is on the other side of the coin, Lyra didn't lose anything by losing.
No, and especially the way she lost. She was about to powerbomb her. She was,
and she died instead.
And, yeah.
But I think she's set up anyway because the relationship they've established between her and Becky Lynch, with Becky Lynch going down to NXT and then supporting her when she came up to Raw, and Becky Lynch has just been sort of like sent off in quotation marks right now by Liv Morgan. It sort of leaves it open for like the teacher's student to do some avenging. And I said it in the preview. I know you weren't able to join me for the preview, but I said if you get Lyra versus Liv Morgan in a title picture on Raw, there's somebody who's brand new to the show and somebody who's kind of brand new to being treated as she should be in Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting program going forward. Now, Rhea Ripley comes in later and kills them all, but be that as it may. And then what was it? It was Lyra and Kairi Sane on Raw. And when was the last time we saw Kairi Sane in a singles match? Because she's been doing mostly tag stuff, right?
It's been a long
time,
huh?
Lots and lots of things are popping off, and we will have much more to talk about next weekend surrounding Battleground. Battleground, you're grounded, but Mom! Anyways, I listen to way too much What Culture. I blame Adam Wilborn entirely. Dude's a legend.
You have to blame them entirely with the finger waggles, too.
Grouchy Sidgwick.
Yeah,
impromptu matches are all of a sudden good, actually, because Sasha Banks did it on AEW, and then Tony Khan sucked my cock. Anyway, Jake, tell them where to find you.
Division in one night.
Tell them where to... Okay, no, hold on. One more point to make. 8 women featured on WWE's Saudi show. 10 women are about to feature on WWE's developmental pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. How many featured on Fumble for Nothing?
I think it was, 4 altogether?
4, yeah.
And just, even then, didn't really advance anywhere, so...
And none of them were great! Jake, tell them where to find you.
You can find me at Twitter, at Countdown Ended, or on the Joe Cronin Show, and here you'll find me. Most likely it'll be the review after NXT Battleground. You'll find Spaz and I together to go ahead and cover that. It's going to be an excellent time next Sunday. I can't wait.
NXT is the best. It's fantastic. And you guys know where to find me or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. This has been Jake DeMarco. This has been The State of Wrestling. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, me and Super Sexy Jake DeMarco, we are tagging out. Bye, guys.
TNA.